welcome to Attic Raiders Retro Reviews, where today we take on high adventure in the world of paint stripping, as we take a look at HeroQuest. HeroQuest was released in 1989 by Milton Bradley and has been on my most wanted list for quite a long time, and I've finally managed to get myself a copy. But like a lot of second-hand copies of HeroQuest, it came with a lot of pre-painted pieces, ones which had been painted in a really bad early 90s colour style. So I thought we need to take a look at stripping off that paint and getting a decent paint job on them. And to strip off the paint, I went online and I've seen a couple of recommendations. One for Evergreen, which is meant to be really good in the US, but over here in the UK, we can't really get that. There's also recommendations for Dettol, and there were recommendations for Fairy Power Spray. So I thought I would do a bit of a video seeing how those actually work at stripping this paint and how good each of them are. So without further ado, let's take a look. When I first went to the supermarket yesterday, I couldn't find either of these two recommended ones. So what I did find was a bottle of TCP, which Dettol is a liquid antiseptic and TCP is a liquid antiseptic. So I thought, well, it's close, maybe it's worth a try. I'm thinking that this one probably won't work, but I'm going to try it to see how it is anyway. Again, Fairy Platinum Power Spray or Fairy Power Spray is also recommended, but I couldn't find any of that in the supermarket, so I did find this CIF Power and Shine Kitchen. Again, Fairy Power Spray it's a spray for removing grease from kitchenware. CIF Power and Shine is again for removing grease from kitchenware, so I'm thinking they might be similar, so it's worth a shot. So what I'm going to do is take these 4 different products and add them to these 4 glass ramekins here. I'm just going to take my 4 miniatures. Now these are all goblins from HeroQuest, and strictly speaking, these don't actually need paint stripped. The paint that is on this is thin enough that normally I would just paint straight over the top of this paint without any problem. It's only if it's really particularly thick that I'm going to want to get rid of it so that it can show more of the details in the sculpt. These, they don't need it, but for the purposes of this experiment, I'm going to use them because they're all a similar size and shape and the same kind of paint that's been used on them. So I'm going to pop 1 into each of these, and then I'm just going to leave them, and I'm going to leave them like that for about 24 hours. Now I'm not doing it just now in this experiment, but I have also in the past tried using white spirits. This is what you use for actually cleaning your paintbrushes and dissolving enamel paints basically. So I've tried again sitting some miniatures in this to see if it would get the paint off. Now straight away, let me just say I do not recommend this. This is not good for your miniatures. It does get the paint off, and it gets the paint off really well and really easily, but it does soften the plastic up a lot. If you soak miniatures in white spirits for about 24 hours, the whole plastic will go pretty much like rubber, and it will take a week for that to dry out and go back to being hard again. And you'll find that once it has gone back to being hard again, it's lost quite a bit of the detail. I've done this with HeroQuest mummies before, and if you take a look at the ones which have sat in the white spirit and compare them to ones which have not had any paint stripped from them, you can see, even though that I've painted them both up exactly the same way, the one that's been in white spirit has lost a lot of detail. It's just a much softer sculpt. I've also tried white spirits with a HeroQuest Barbarian, which had really thick, heavy, encrusted paint on it, which was absolutely awful. Now, I sat that in the white spirits for only an hour and a half that time, but again, it softened up the plastic. It didn't soften all of the plastic, but it softened the very top layer of the plastic, so that when I was scraping it off, it actually took off the entire top layer of plastic. Now, thankfully, the plastic was hard underneath that rubbery top layer. Certainly, it took a long time with a wooden skewer in order to scrape down all of that, the entire top layer of rubbery plastic, and take that off to expose the hard plastic underneath. So I would not recommend this, and it's definitely not as good as unstripped if it was an unpainted piece. So all in all, from that piece of testing, I would not use white spirits at all, whether it's for 24 hours or even for a short period of time, like an hour or an hour and a half. You're going to damage the plastic really and lose a lot of detail, or lose enough detail that it's going to be annoying. So that's been 24 hours now, so let's take a look at our results. CIF Power Shine, and first impression is it doesn't seem to have done very much to the gold on the sword, but I can see on his red top here it's all flaking in there already, so that might come off quite easily. Fairy Platinum Power Spray, and that you can see has absolutely destroyed that white paint on the sword there. Again, the red on his shirt has really started. In fact, look at that, that's just going to peel right off like that. And I can see as well the base here is all bubbled and is going to come off really easily as well. So I think that Fairy Power Spray looks like it is really good, and the liquid is really nice and clear. Dettol, and this looks really quite disgusting and swampy. It's all gone kind of it's got this real kind of gloopy consistency. It's not a liquid anymore at all. I can see though, looking at that sword, oh, that paint there has come off. Look at that, that's just coming off really, really easily. And I suspect, yep, the paint on this top is going to come off really easily as well. TCP, and as expected, hasn't really done very much. I can see, oh, that's a reaction from the Dettol, going into the TCP there. I can see there is a bit of paint coming away here on the sword. It's starting to peel, but I don't think that's really done very much, particularly on this red of his shirt here. So next thing is to get the toothbrush and get scrubbing. Now, first thing to note is that I am wearing rubber gloves here. I probably do not need to wear rubber gloves, but I'm going to just in case. So CIF Power Shine up first. I'm going to take him out and let's have a look. That the gold's not doing very much coming off of here, but this red is really coming off easy. On the back here, look how easy that comes off. And you can see that paint has come off beautifully. Next up, Fairy Platinum Power Spray. So I'm going to take him out of here, and you can see a lot of his paint is just kind of falling off already. That red flaking off straight away. On his back, no problem. Easy stuff, easily gone. Give him a bit of a rinse. The gold paint on his boots does not seem to have really come off, but everything else has come off really well. Dettol this time, and you can see, yeah, it's quite sludgy and horrible. Now let's see if I take him out, how this is going to go. Again, that red particularly is coming off there really easy. And you can see that most of that paint has come off really well. The white is quite stubborn on the sword here, but pretty much everything else, the green and the red, have managed to come off of there. Finally, the TCP, which I suspect will not be particularly great. Let's take a look at this. Well, it's got that off of the sword. See how it tackles the red, which the other one did really well on. So I've given all of these a rinse off with some water and dried them, so the results are now in. Now remember, at the beginning, each one of these had a red painted tunic with gold boots, and these two with the pointy swords had gold painted blades. And you can see, as I suspected, the one that was stripped with TCP has really not worked particularly well at all. All the gold's there, all the red's there. Took some off of his sword, but not really much of anything else. This one seems to be the one that's the most of the gold has come off, because remember, they all had gold boots. These two have still got gold on their boots. This one, not very much. I would happily paint over the top of that, but this one, this is the one with the Dettol. It's pretty much taken off all of that gold. There's just a little bit gunked up around the bottom of the sword here, and I would probably use a hobby knife just in order to scrape that gunked off bits off. CIF coming in as a surprise contender though, that's done particularly well. The gold it's not done, but everything else that was on there, it's stripped really, really well. The fairy as well has done really, really good. Gotten off pretty much all of the paint that was on there, apart from a little bit of gold on the boot there. So in conclusion, if I was going to recommend one of these, well, the TCP, that was pretty rubbish, so that's out straight away. Of the remaining three, Dettol, I would say, is the one that has done the best with stripping that paint off, with Fairy Power Spray a very, very close second. If I were buying something to strip paint, I would actually go for the Fairy Power Spray over the Dettol. The Dettol has stripped slightly better, but not by an awful lot. This is pretty much up there with Dettol. I would very, very happily repaint that now. And the thing with Fairy Power Spray is, you saw it was a nice clear liquid, and by the time it had finished, it was just nice clear liquid at the end there, whereas the Dettol, when we put that in, it's got this horrible kind of urine brown yellow colour, and it absolutely stinks. Now, leaving a tub of this for 24 hours, it is going to make a smell. Now, I didn't cover it, but I would suggest you put a lid on it. My wife complained non-stop about the smell in our kitchen, and when this was done, this was a really, really soupy, gloopy mixture when it had finished with that paint. And this is one, when you're cleaning it, you need to make sure you scrub it and clean it off in the Dettol, not with water. If you actually scrub it and run it under the tap while you're scrubbing it, it will gum up and make everything all sludgy, or so I've heard. I haven't tried that myself, but that's what I have read. So again, given the differences there, this one just seems to be a nicer choice rather than the smell and the sludginess. But all three of these can be bought for £2 each. I got this one from Tesco, and these two I actually bought from Poundland because Tesco didn't have any of them in. As far as best value for money, well, let's see. This one has got 500 mils for £2, and this one's also 500 mil for £2. So it's the same amount there. But I would wager that with this one, if you strained this through a cloth and used a funnel to put it back into the bottle, you could reuse this one. Whereas this, because it goes sludgy, you're not really going to get much of reuse out of this one. And with the results in, it's time to do a bit more stripping. Now, these two I got a while back and painted up, but I didn't realise at the time, because it was the first set of minis from HeroQuest that I got, that just how much of the detail had been filled in with really, really thick paintwork on these. These two have just lost so much detail. If you actually compare them to how he should be, you can see they're just really bad. And in fact, I was actually told by a fellow YouTuber who shall remain nameless that these guys should just get thrown out. They should get binned. Well, that's not going to happen. These guys are going to get stripped in the Fairy Power Spray, and they're going to get a new lease of life rather than cruelly binning them. Okay, on these guys the paint is being really, really stubborn and does not want to come off. So they are going for a bath in some Dettol this time. It's time to bring out the big guns. Well, while the Fairy Power Spray found that too hard to get off, the Dettol has absolutely destroyed that toughened paint. Look, his face skin is hanging off. Look at this, pull off. Oh, that paint completely. Oh, that is disgusting. And the bit, look. Oh, it's, oh, ugh. Nice. Let's have a go now. Let's scrub in this. That skin is just sloughing off like a snake. Whoa. That is so satisfying. Okay, I take it back. Dettol looks bad and it smells bad, but it is so the way to go. Look at that compared with the Fairy and compared to earlier. That is a superb result. And this guy, look at that, that is beautiful. So nice. Kind of like picking a scab. Yep, we have got a clear winner. If you have got really tough, thick, caked on paint that you want to get rid of, Dettol is the way to go. So I hope that's been helpful and encourages some of you to go on that high adventure in paint stripping, because you can really get some fantastic results with very little effort. And of course, badly painted sets of figures can be bought for a lot cheaper than fully unpainted sets. If you have a go, let me know how you got on. Drop me a message in the comments below. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Attic Raiders Retro Reviews.